Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we got a interview announcement, news, everything rolled into one. My buddy Joe Roets, the founder of Dragonchain, the guy who created Disney's blockchain, done a lot of stuff. Smart guy, probably one of the smartest guys I know. One of the titans of crypto. Gonna make a big announcement. Talk about something that he's been working on. I've been working on helping him a little bit on the side. But it's a really, really cool thing. We've talked about it with Drakaria. In fact, we'll play the trailer and then get into it. Coming very soon. Very soon. So why don't you let us know what's going on with Drakaria?
Right on. Well, thanks for having me on. The thing, I guess,
No problem. I know you're not your favorite guy, but yeah, it's okay.
You're ridiculous.
You're
ridiculous. No, so you are actually you probably are my favorite person in crypto. So in all of
Thanks,
crypto.
man. You're one of my best friends too, man.
You're a good guy, Sean. All right, so let's see here. The important thing to note is that Dracharia is finally going live tomorrow at noon Central Time. We wanted it to be easy in the middle of the day for us so that we had time before and after to deal with everything. So noon Central tomorrow. What is it? It's July 9th, a Wednesday in July. And it's been, I think, 3.5 years that we've been working on this. So it's a pretty big project, pretty deep. And, you know, the beginning, there was a lot of
Hey Sean, you know a lot about dragons and stuff. What? Yeah. I remember the conversations.
Yeah, I did talk to you quite a bit about it
Yeah.
in the early days. So there's I don't know, it's easily the most fun project I've ever worked on, and I think in my opinion, it's probably my favorite project I've ever worked on because it's very interesting, it's very unique, it's very different, and we have a lot of proofs of concept, I guess you would say, rolled into it, right?
That and something I wanted to say about this, you have a lot of word proofs. It's the most blockchainy NFT thing that's, you know what I mean? There's so much that's the text used for. It's not just the JPG that, or JPEG that you could just copy or something. It's very different.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the thing is like when and I guess I give you the story. I've talked about wanting to use this tech or wanting to see someone use this tech for something like this for years before, even as far back as Disney. And I think, I don't know, it might have been too abstract, might have been too weird of an idea or something, right? Maybe it was just too out there, but we got this email from these these 3D studio guys, and they said, hey, we have this fully rigged dragon, we want you to see it. And we're like, okay. I figured they were just wanting to sell it for marketing or something. We're a crypto company, whatever. And so I said, what should we do? Talk to the team. And it was interesting because they looked it up, looked this team up, and they said, oh, they're legit, right? They've done some movies and other stuff, professional stuff. So I said, okay, well, let's talk to them, and if they, whether or not they want to sell it to us, we didn't have the budget, or we didn't need something like that for just regular marketing or something. So I said, I'm going to put together a pitch deck for, what I would like to do with it. Right. And it was funny because when we talked to them, it turns out they were, they built this dragon. They were dragon fans. They were fans of Dragonchain, and they just, it was funny when I asked, so did you have any thoughts? And they said, no, we wanted to see what you wanted to do with it. Right. I was like, okay. So I had his pitch deck ready. It was pretty cool. It's not often that something like that actually pans out. Right. So we, I essentially laid out that, okay, unpredictability, you spawn an egg, you, first of all, and at the time I didn't have down that it was going to be, one of 4 elemental types of eggs or dragons. Right. But I said, there'd be some level of uncertainty what you get. And then your egg, however, you don't know when it's going to hatch, right? So essentially, you're keeping an egg. You could trade it. You could, you could sell it. You could get a different one, but you don't know when it's going to hatch. And and now we have this concept of an egg density where some of the eggs should hatch much sooner than others, but it's entirely probabilities based. There's no way to predict what the outcome is, and every single Ethereum block will potentially decide that your egg is going to start to hatch. And some of the eggs are extremely unlikely to hatch. I mean, there's 10 million density one, which means you have a 1 in 10 million chance on every Ethereum block that it's going to start hatching. And so by the number of Ethereum blocks in a day, that's essentially going to average over 3 years before it will hatch, right? Which, it's a very rare egg, that one, but it's still possible. And so anyway, I pitched them on this.
Do you know the density of the egg?
As soon as you spawn the egg, you know
Okay.
the density. Yep. It's part
So
of
someone who bought that would know they have the ultra rare.
Yeah, and I guess we should spell it out. Like when you spawn the egg, you know that it's a fire, earth, air, or water dragon egg, right? And you also know it's a rarity because it has every egg will have a magic element, and like say a water egg that has a fire magic element is extremely rare. The opposite elements, air and earth, and less than 5% will be like that. And those have very unique things that happen even with their colors. That that will make them interesting.
If you want to share the site or something, it's
Oh yeah. There's not anything on it yet because there's nothing spawned, right? But one way or another, the when you have the egg, you don't know when it's going to start to hatch, but when it does start to hatch, we then take so there's an Ethereum block that starts to hatch. We take the 5 prior Ethereum blocks and the 5 subsequent Ethereum blocks, and then we take 1 Bitcoin block sometime in the past 24 hours and 1 Bitcoin block in the future, no more than 24 hours in the future. And all of those, like the 2 Bitcoin blocks, are deterministically set based upon the hatch event. So the hatch event comes out, you get entropy from the blockchain, and it decides which blocks. And so, it might take you another 20 hours to see your full egg hatch, to see the dragon. When you have all those blocks, like when we have both Bitcoin blocks now and all those Ethereum blocks, they're all combined with the original info from the egg. It's called the charm of making at the beginning, and they essentially are combined to create a genome, and that genome is then taken and it's broken down deterministically again with all that blockchain data, but it's broken down into 58 separate genes, which includes everything like the size of the horns, the size of the claws, the wings, the skin on the wings, the colors, and it's pretty amazing because the way the color system works. I mean, there's some really interesting depth on it, and it took us it took us quite a while to get to a point where they looked organic and realistic, and the variations were very extreme, and there will never be two alike. It's near to impossible that you'll ever get two that are the same, so there'll be and some of what we're trying to do, we can go pretty broad into this, but we're trying to not not frame this as an NFT, because the broader vision is to make all of this blockchain based all these features, the entropy, the the provably unpredictable nature of it. We're trying to frame it in a way that traditional game devs, indie devs, game studios could come in.
I wanted to ask that. Who
Yeah.
owns it? Who owns it?
Who owns the dragon?
Who owns Dracharia?
Drakaria? It's a group. It's all the founders. So we have Dragonchain owns a piece.
So
Rivet.
if an indie game comes to you and says, "Hey, we want to incorporate it," you're able to do that with.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
because I wanted to check on that, because it's a cool concept and idea, but it usually gets screwed up down the road because people aren't set up, and you
and
have
that's
set up for that. Okay.
Yeah, and the whole team. It's kind of beautiful, because all of the founders are the same mindset that we don't. This is not a flash in the pan. Oh, we're going to put these dragons out and be done with it. The dragons are just kind of a proof of concept. They're just to show you how it works, so people can be attracted to something, and something that they can. It's a little more tactile. That it's not like some abstract concept. That we imagine a lot of people will come in because they're fans of dragons, fans of Tolkien, Game of Thrones, D&D, whatever. They're going to come in and want one, and they're. I would say probably most of them won't even care how it works. They'll just see that they're all so unique. They all look real. They all look very amazing, and some of them are going to look so different that everybody's going to want them, right? So it's like this. It's a neat thing. It's kind of like more of a collectible, and we're considering it collectibles tech. We're considering it to be something more focused on selling to those people that are fans of dragons.
Would you, for those people, would you be able to D&Dify someone's dragon? So, like with stats, so that they could put it into their game and use it.
Oh yeah, and it has, every dragon has that comes out of the box with a magic or not score, an MP, magic type, unstable or stable, and there's some interesting ways that's determined. Hit an HP score, which is based upon the length of its incubation. So, if you have to wait a long time for it to incubate, there's a positive. You're going to get a big initial HP, and then an agility, which is kind of the inverse of the HP. So if you get something that hatches super fast, it's not a bad thing, because the agility is going to be really high. So a bunch of that stuff is really interesting, and yet the protocol itself, the platform itself allows, if let's say we make a character that is, let's say it's an elf, so you have elves of some type, and people will spawn the elves, and we have something like that, maybe something more similar to rolling a D&D character, right? They have strength, they have stamina, whatever else, and the beauty is people can prove it to each other. Oh, this is my character has these traits. Well, let's say you come in and you say, hey, I want to build a game, but I need something more than what they're showing. I need this special trait. The beauty is, if it were traditional games, the way it would work, if there were collectibles out there that could be playable, someone before they built the game would come in and find all of the highest score on some trait or some gene, and they would buy all the cheapest characters that had a high trait on that one gene because nobody cares about that gene. Let's say, maybe it's just something visual. And then they would, I would consider that cheating because it's like, oh, you're coming in and owning the market before you decide what to use in your game. But we have a feature that allows you to register a new gene or set of genes. So you could essentially, you could take the dragons, for instance, and add 100 new genes that your game is going to use. And you would essentially map them out and put the design on chain by registering a genome extension is what we call it. And there's no way for you to know how it will turn out. And there's no way for you to know what the result will be for any given character because those new genes are standardized on chain with a future block marked to say this is when all of the existing characters will that my new genes for them will be determined. So it's I don't know, it's a kind of a potentially something that, I mean, it's a little bit hard to describe, of course, but when you do it, it's really cool because it'll be very fair, right? So that, there's no way to determine, and it'll be a cool thing for anybody who has one of those characters because they're going to get to go in on that reveal day and say, oh, holy crap, what did I get? Even some of their maybe least powerful characters will all of a sudden have these great traits for that new game, right? So there's some really neat stuff there, and that's why if we focus on more of the traditional game market and then bring in some of these concepts that are Web3 concepts and NFT concepts into that, it's a very helpful thing. Plus, we know that market is radically bigger than the NFT market, right? So, we're really, especially when you're talking about, with dragons and stuff like that. So it'll be cool.
So you want to go over with the gateway keys,
Yes.
all that stuff that's on the screen? Okay.
Yes. So when we first started this, we wanted to say, okay, we're going to roll out. We were trying to figure out how to, how do you price them? How do you handle the things that you typically have to deal with when you're doing something like this? And we wanted the first season to be free, but very, very limited, and essentially put it in the hands of the people that were there early because they can be the core community that can explain it to new people when it takes off. And so we brought in one of the team had a concept. Let's make them gateway keys, and essentially that way we can hand people the keys with giveaways and stuff. And that's the only way to get one of the eggs in the Genesis season, the very first season. And the Genesis season is the only season that isn't an element. All the rest of the seasons after it are it's a cycle of earth, water, air, fire, and every cycle is an age. So it's going to go on forever, and all the other characters and games will fit in. But when you get a dragon, it's going to matter what season it was spawned in and what season it hatches in. And the only one that you can control is the spawn. You can control which season you spawn it in. And the Genesis ones are going to be very rare. I think that there are like 59 max that will be in Genesis season. I'm pretty sure that's right. And every member of the team gets one key, and then we were giving away 42 to the whoever's out there, and we've given away like 28 or something like that to the community. And yeah,
we're giving away one here. So
yes.
We're gonna put this on. There's a link below. It'll go to a Twitter post. Like the post and comment, and then we'll be giving that away this week. Joe will pick and Dragonchain will pick a commenter, and you will win.
Okay, that'll work. That'll work, and it'll be interesting. I'll probably if you post this tomorrow, I assume, right, on Wednesday.
Maybe tonight, yeah.
Oh, maybe not even. That'd be great. Because we only have, like, every season is 28 days, and the spawn cycle is only 14 days. So you essentially go 14 days on, 14 days off, and if the eggs sell out sooner than the 14 days, then the cycle is done. But it's still, you wait 28 days for the next to start, and that way we have a calendar. It was an interesting thing, like, say, looking at the NFT world, that and we even, of course, it's been 3.5 years we've been working on this, that talking to people in the NFT world, if you don't sell out, it's seen as a failure. And we wanted to say, well, let's rewrite the rules on this and say, look, we don't expect to sell out. Instead, we're going to have a cycle that keeps going. And you can look at the white paper for the details, but essentially, the fee will change based upon how many sell each season, and the supply will change based upon how many are spawned each season. So the supply is up to 5x. That is, every season, the next season's supply will be affected by this season's spawning. If you spawn 100% of the available supply, there will be 5 times more next season. But it's a curve. So if you only spawn 10% of the available supply, then next season will only have a supply of 2 times the number that were spawned this season. So it can grow and shrink to follow the market. The fee is similar, but the fee will never go down. So the fee will increase every time. That's one of the ways we're kind of controlling the total supply in the end. But it only goes up 10% max each season. So if you spawn 100% of the available, then the next season will be 10% higher fee. And it was originally a lot higher than that, but in testing, we were more concerned that we wouldn't see the variety, because there's the variety of these genomes is going to be so crazy. It would be it'd be a travesty if you only had 1,000 made or something. So, we were like, okay, and if they get too expensive too fast, it just wouldn't be fun. And we don't know how fast it will be noticed, and we kind of wanted to let it be organic, and it can go out as a kind of a sleeper at the beginning, and all the people that like it will have plenty of time to collect and start doing things with them. And we have a crazy amount of plans for what's coming next for apps and games and other characters, and and we haven't announced the artists. The artists, we decided to the team, we all decided to hold off because we didn't want any hype surrounding it, especially when we're not selling anything yet. It's all free, so we want to keep it pretty clean and wait. So
where are you going to be, like, the market to buy and sell? I know there's going to be one on the site, but is there going to be secondary markets, or
right. Okay, so let's see here. We all the spawning is, of course, directly on the site. Drakaria has its own chain. It's a Dragonchain blockchain, and as soon as possible, we're going to have a native marketplace there. So you won't have, you'll have fees, but you won't have Ethereum fees. You won't have to, go and spend money like that. And there will be, interesting things about the fees that, depending upon how you're trading or selling. We are expecting to make it so that you can export it, so you can hold it on your own hardware wallet. We might do multiple chains. I don't know yet, right? And if you can do that, then of course you'll be able to take it to some. In that case, it would be an NFT marketplace of some type, or otherwise just trade it on your own. But we do expect that there will be something there. We don't have a date yet. We're hoping to get that in the Earth season, the next season, but it kind of depends on how much we get built out.
As far as the NFT itself, what do you see when you unlock it with your key? Do you see an egg?
Okay, when you unlock it, let's see here. So you would see, like, if you go to the website, you can see that there's a community page and there's a my collection page, right? So when you spawn it, you essentially how do I say this? You say, I want one egg. You then click on how you're going to pay it with a gateway key at the bottom. It pops it up. You select the gateway key, because in the end, the gateway keys are also going to be collectible. There will be very rare ones, right? And you will be able to buy gateway keys later, kind of like a gift card. You can give it to somebody for Christmas or something, right? Just email it to them. And then after you select the gateway key, you're going to select the redeem the gateway key, spawn the egg, and it will go to a reveal page and reveal your egg, and it'll tell you what kind of a dragon it's going to be, what the magic element is, what the egg density is, things like that. And then after that, you can go in on your my collection page and just look at the details. The image for the eggs, there are only 16 images, because it's the combinations of four house elements and 4 magic elements. So but you should be able to tell pretty quickly that, it has a fire background, which is the magic, and the egg in the front is a fire egg or a water egg or whatever it is. And then after that, you can go to the community page and watch for hatching eggs. And we're going to ramp up the website on a number of things too, because, like, say, once your dragon hatches, you can well, I guess I should even say, even with the eggs, you can sort them already by rarity, and there's even there's a score of 0 to 255, where the very highest value is, I can't remember what we call it. There's some lore based names for the levels of rarity, but that's the core rarity. But then there's, of course, rarity on every gene. There's the magic rarity. There's a whole bunch of other things that people might have more of an affinity to. And in the end, though, I guess what I'm getting to is that when the dragons hatch, the end goal is that you will be able, much like you're on an Amazon page sorting by whatever you're sorting products by, you're going to be able to sort by the like individual genes. Even say, okay, I want the ones that have the biggest snout, or the biggest horns, and then you can just see those. Or I want to see ones that have pink in them, right? Have some amount of pink. And it's going to be important, because at some point we're going to include the ability to breed. And then, the primal dragons will be kind of the premier, but for a, cheaper, for a lower fee, or you might have your own set of dragons that you're breeding, but you might want to find dragons who, for instance, have what would be a recessive gene, that is, we see this a lot, where you might have a dragon that has a really vibrant color, but it has not manifested because there are other genes that affect whether that color is turned on or not, right? So there's a bunch of really interesting stuff that you could potentially say, I really want to get a blue with an orange, and you could find dragons that have various traits and then breed them and then keep breeding them.
And you could sell them in the marketplace.
Yeah, right.
It's like kind of Second Life kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You'd breed pets and whatnot. Yeah, my cousin used to do that.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
There's a bunch. And when we've gone into it on that, we have a lot of design work already in place, and we're, right now starting the evaluation of games and apps to determine, which games can be built with partners or internally, most reasonably, that are also fun to play, right? And
I was going to ask you if you're looking at doing partnering. I know you are, but if you were looking at doing something on your own,
yeah, we have we have two really simple things that are almost complete. That are, one of them is a game, one of them is an app, but they are very simple. But just as a, just kind of a first step out there with them. And probably hold off what those are, but something to do with your dragon first, right? But in the end, when we've looked at it, there's some really interesting concepts that we're able to tap into because these things are so organic that things like, how do I say this? What we really want to do is develop what I call gene utility, where, let's say I have a dragon that everybody wants the one that's really brightly colored and very rare colored, because it's cool looking. So those have some value already, right? But then you're going to get, let's say this game over here has some, magic or some feature built into it that pays attention to this other set of genes that nobody really thought much about, but it has some real effect over here. All of a sudden, there are a set of dragons that people will like, I want that one, and it's a neat thing because it means that when you're designing your characters, you want to think about the things that you can build into your game that will make the characters valuable to people, even if you're not talking about the dollar value, just the value of being able to play this game with a unique unique play component, right? It might be a unique weapon or something they have, and they can have dozens of those, right? Just to kind of spread it out and make sure that pretty much every dragon has some, and if it's not a dragon, it could be something else. And then on the other hand, we've looked at things like, I went through an entire model where we took these Italian card games, and like this Briscola and Scopa and things like this that are really simple games. I mean, here in the States, it would be something like the equivalent to Crazy Eights or even poker maybe. But they have very key. They're fun games to play. They're very straightforward. Different deck than what we have over here. It's weird, but it's weird once you play them enough, you realize that there are certain times that the outcome is a definite. That if you have this trump card, you're trying to hold it because when you play it, you win no matter what, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of a simple concept, but we looked at, what if the trump card wasn't a suit but a gene, and therefore you have this set of cards that are all kind of like Pokemon cards where they're characters, but just because I have a character X and you have a character X, sometimes this gene is in play, sometimes a different gene is in play, so it becomes a much wider replayability, or it's just there's a lot more variety that can happen. So we're looking at some of that, trying to figure out what to do first, to make things interesting. But we even have some open world, Unreal Engine games planned that we know will be interesting, and we have a phased approach to rolling them out. Thinking of like say No Man's Sky type stuff where you have a programmatic deterministic universe, right? We're thinking about doing something that would be start as an exploration game where because everything's on chain, as you explore the terrain and it gets generated with the entropy, that you end up you might discover mountains or streams or something, and you have some ability to choose a name for them, right? Stuff like that. So there should be some really fun stuff. Yeah.
And also, you could do like airdrops and stuff. If you worked with an indie game,
Yep. Yes.
everyone that has a dragon, you get a weapon, which would then create interest in that game.
Yep.
So
Pulling people in.
Pulling
Yep.
people in.
Oh, here's the other thing too. Now we have not done this yet, but as an example, you could take, let's say I have a dragon, I have a genome, and I own that genome, and I own all of the renderings and whatever else comes from it. That potentially another game maker could come in and say, okay, anybody who has one of these can generate a new character from their genome. So essentially, your genome gets mapped to some mage or something in that game, and it's an interesting thing. But it's a new character, and it would actually make a lot of sense. And the other side of it too is that at least for some of the games we're looking at interesting angles on how to do what is essentially a free game that has various ways to monetize. So that people who want to play can just play, but let's say you collect characters kind of like you collect Pokemon or something, but every one is unique. It's not like just like, oh, I got a class A character X. It would be a full genome, and therefore you might get something so super rare that somebody else might really want it. There might be some actual way to make money on it, and then we would just take a cut, right? So stuff like that. And I do think some of it too, if you set up games that have more of a party component like an RPG, then you could say that rather than paying $60 for a game, maybe it's $10 or $20 for a character, but you're more likely to buy a lot more of them. So it's we'll make more money than we would by selling a game. That's kind of the gist of it, because you're going to want to spawn enough characters and or go to the market to buy characters that fit into some complex strategy that you might develop, that isn't cookie cutter built into the game. It's more like, no, here's how all this stuff works. Here's how the magic system works, and whatever the attack and defense stuff, and you decide which characters and which genes to assemble to do what you want to do, right? So we talked about land. We talked about there's a whole bunch of really fun stuff we're gonna be able to play with. So I don't know.
And we're launching tomorrow, Wednesday, the 9th at noon Central, U.S. Canada.
Yes.
And check out my Twitter, link below for the giveaway. See if you can win yourself a key, which will be very, very rare. As always, good hanging out with you, man. Good talking to you.
You too.
Been excited. Like you said, we've been talking about this for a long, long time. So it's good to see it come to fruition. All right. You guys take care. Remember to hit the like button, leave a comment so you're registered to win yourself some crypto. You can check out me and Joe on Thursdays on Dragonchain, on World Blockchain Roundtable. And yeah, check out the post. Take care.
Thanks, Sean.